Hey everybody! Guess who? That's right, it's your friend Jeff on the Learn Portrait Drawing channel, and this is the final video, the part 3 of a 3-part series where we are drawing this portrait right here. Now, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2 yet, please check those out. I'll go ahead and put a link to the description below, and I'll throw some links somewhere up here, I think, where you can check those out as well. But this is where we're going to pick up. We're going to pick up where we left off. The video or the picture looks something like this over here. And now we're going to take that and we're going to finish it so it looks like this right here. Now, one of the things I'm going to cover in this video is a question I get asked a lot, which is how do you know how to shade? How do you spot the little differences that make a drawing go from looking flat and blotchy to something that looks more smooth and more realistic? So, this video is going to cover some of those topics as well as many more, and if you have any questions or anything, just leave me a comment down below. I promise I'll answer everything. So, with that being said, as we get on to watching this drawing, I just want to thank you for being a part of this channel, making it grow as big as it's growing, and if you haven't already, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know every time I come out with a new video and stay on top of all these things. We have a lot of fun here, and I look forward to interacting with you. Alright, with that being said, let's finish drawing this guy right here. Okay, welcome back everybody. Now, I was going to start this video automatically sort of in a sped up motion, but I figured I would do this part in real time just to kind of help out and explain some of the questions that I get and help you see some of the ways to fix shading issues. So what I noticed here coming back from this drawing, taking a break, speaking of shading, what you always want to do is you want to compare your values. So for example, see this right here by his nose, this dark value? Notice that it's about the same value as right underneath the eyes. You know, if you squint your eyes and look, those two are about the same value. But if you look at the picture itself, the reference picture, this part of the nose is not as dark as that part under the eye. It's just not. So those are things you got to compare, and you got to ask yourself when you squint, compare two things. So squint your eyes and see this value, see something that looks similar to it, and ask yourself, are those two the same on the actual picture? And they're not. So I need to knock this back a little bit. So I'm just going to use my kneaded eraser and very lightly, I'm just going to knock down this back. Now I'm not trying to erase the shading altogether. I want to keep the shape that I had. I still want that to be a shadow. But I'm just using my kneaded eraser, squinting my eyes while I'm doing this so I can see it slowly being stepped back. And see if you can see that. See that you can see that this is now looking less dark than how I had it before. We're just using our eraser. We don't want to get rid of all the shading. We just want to knock it back a little bit. And then I'm going to use my little blending stump to just kind of blend together everything because I don't want to leave any streaks from my eraser. So now I'm going to squint my eyes again. It does look a little lighter than how we had it before. I think we might be able to go even a little bit lighter. So I'm just lightly using my eraser, ever so slightly, to knock this back down. And now we still want this, what we were erasing, we still want this to be darker than next to it. Now look next to it on the picture. On the picture, it's really light in here. So I'm going to use my eraser to lighten this area a little bit. Because I see the shape of his nose. And if I follow the direction of this nostril, it kind of goes up and over this way. So I'm just going to lighten all this area here. It looks like we lightened this area the way we wanted to, because now this is lighter than under the eye. That's what we wanted. But we noticed now that this area was the same as the one next to it. So now I have to lighten the area next to it. So I'll erase, and it's okay to erase a lot in here, because then you can just use like your blending tool to slowly, if you need to add more back in, you can slowly add a little bit more in here. And I'm looking at this value here, this highlight. You know, this looks just like a big diagonal splotch. But on the reference picture, if I squint my eyes, it's not completely diagonal. It kind of comes up a little bit like this. This kind of breaks that shape. So there's a little bit up in here, a little break, and then it kind of comes down this way. So you want to look at these shapes, even in these light shapes. And there might be a lot of back and forth with your eraser and your blending tool. And it's okay sometimes to use your finger like this, because that'll give it that can also smooth things out. And I just want to make sure I get this shape of the nose correctly. I don't want to just lose this shape, so I want to make sure this shape still comes up, that it still rounds out here. See, I'm kind of rounding out the nose. And see, I already think it's looking a little bit better. Maybe need to put a little bit more shading up in here. But that's sort of like the trick for shading and doing shadows and doing values like that, is looking at those little things. So here's another example. Look at the left cheek. Look how dark this is right here. Squint your eyes and look at this dark area of the cheek. Squint your eyes, look at my drawing, and see what other value looks similar to that. That looks almost as dark as, let me see. That almost looks as dark as maybe this part of his nose, this shadow right here. Not quite as dark, but that's pretty similar. But if you look at the reference picture, this area is nowhere close to being as dark as this. Nowhere close. This needs to come way back down. So again, I'm going to use my eraser and very lightly, very, very lightly, we're just going to knock this down a little bit. You see that? You see how we're not really erasing. We're trying not to leave eraser marks, but we're just very, very lightly knocking it back down. And see, now when I squint, I see a little white line right here. We don't want that. We don't want that. So I'm going to slowly blend this together and get rid of this white line. And it helps to, like I said, it helps to actually squint while you're doing this. Because when you squint, you can kind of see if that line is still there or not. And I can already see that line is going away. See, so we've smoothed it out a little bit. I'm still seeing that maybe this area of the cheekbone is a little too dark. So I'm just going to use my eraser and kind of try and make this almost all the same. And as I'm squinting, I'm seeing we're definitely accomplishing that. See, now these two values are a lot more closer together. You could still see it's dark right here, darker here than it is here, but now look, very, very different than how we had it before. So that's just another example. Right here, right by the nose, look how dark that is. Squint your eyes and let's compare that to a value. That looks like it's, you know, if I squint my eyes and look at the picture, okay, I notice, look at my picture without squinting. It's dark here, light here. But if you squint and look at the reference picture, this almost looks like it needs to be the same. It almost looks like this is all, like there isn't a lighter area here. So I'm just want to use my pencil and kind of make those two a little bit closer together. And I also see that this shadow looks to be the same as this over here. If I squint my eyes, this almost looks like it's all connected. So I need to add some more charcoal here so this is all connected. This comes down to here, goes up towards this area of the cheek. Okay? And let's just blend it all together like this. Now hopefully you're finding this helpful. And if you have questions, please let me know. See, so that's already looking to me a lot better. Now up by the eye, this I see is probably needs to be about the same darkness. So I just want to make sure that this is also pretty dark. Because we know the shadow's over here. But I want to show you something else here. By the way, if you haven't seen part 1 of this video, there will be a link to it in the description below, so you'll be able to see how we started this drawing. I recommend watching that first. Now back to this. Squinting our eyes. Now look, we have this like... Oh, hold on one second. Sorry about that. So now we see, when we squint our eyes, there's this light pattern right here. But if I look at the picture, it doesn't look quite this big. I see this area here, right? This area here that's coming in between the eye and the nose. But it almost looks like, when I squint my eyes and look at the picture, it almost looks like it breaks it in half. Like this is almost kind of like something like this. And this isn't quite so light. This isn't quite as light. The difference between this and this shouldn't be that close together. So I'm going to shade this other area a little bit, but not as dark as this area. I'm bringing these values closer together, but I still want to maintain a separation so that this still looks darker than this. And then we're going to blend it, what we just did, so it's smoother. And I'll use my finger even to get it even a little bit smoother. So I'm kind of blending it all together right now. It's almost one solid color right now. I don't want that. I'm squinting. I still want to make sure this here comes out a little bit darker, like that. But see what I'm doing? It's just this back and forth, this constant back and forth. Constantly asking myself, okay, now that I did that, do I need to darken anything else? Did that change the value anywhere else? Whenever you add something, you're always looking back and forth. So I think we're definitely making progress over here. You know, what else should I notice here? I guess sort of what we've already kind of touched on before, but like smoothing out the drawing. You know, if I look on this side of the face, it's a little bit streaky. You can see the streaks. So I'll just use my blending tool, and sometimes I'll use it right up on the side of it. And even go in like little circles sometimes. And that'll slowly smooth out these streak marks. See, look at. That's already looking a lot better. It's looking a lot better. So it's a combination of sometimes using my finger, using the blending tools that we have, whether it be something homemade like this, or using these what are they called? Tortillons or something? Sounds like a reptile, doesn't it? So I just wanted to do that in real time for the first, 15 minutes or so of this video. Now I'm going to kind of speed things up, and I'm still going to talk over it, but I'll speed things up so we get through this, do a lot of changes on this video faster. And yeah, if you have questions, let me know. But let's continue on with this drawing. Alright, and here we are back in sort of a faster time video. Hopefully that real-time section that we just went over helped you out as far as being able to see the little tiny aspects of a drawing and how to train your mind to, compare values and look at things a little bit more detailed, a little bit more precise. As a beginner, a lot of times we, the only thing that makes you different than somebody that might be, a really good artist is just how you observe things. So observing, learning, what to see and how to fix things, that's what's going to improve your art. And as we now zoom back and look at this drawing as I'm, going over it, I'm going to use this time to kind of answer some questions. And the question that I get a lot asked is, do I need to, what can I do to become a better artist? Do I need to practice, or do I need to watch other people? And to be honest with you, well, the answer is both, actually. But don't take for granted the power of watching other people. Videos like this, what you're seeing right here, this helped me learn more than almost anything else. Again, I'm all self-taught, and I learned all of this from watching other artists on YouTube. So that's why I'm doing these videos, because I want to help, share what I've learned with you. And I'm hoping that you watching these videos is going to help you the same way that I was helped watching videos like this. So when you're watching an artist draw from start to finish, like I do on these videos, what I encourage you to do is look at the reference picture and ask yourself, how would you draw it? How would you start it out? How would you shade this feature of the drawing? How would you draw the mouth? Ask yourself these questions and then see what I do and compare it. You might see that I do something that you go, oh wow, I would have never done it that way. And you might learn something, or you might, want to try something different that I'm doing that maybe you're not doing. And it might work for you, or it might not work for you. But that's the thing, is in finding out your style, it's all about trying these different things that you're seeing other artists do, seeing what works for you, and what doesn't work, just discard it. And if it does work, you take it on for yourself. And then you start slowly making your style. So, like in this drawing, for example, you saw how I was doing the shading. And you might say to yourself, would I have done it the same way? Or you might say to yourself, I don't know how to do it. Let me see how you're doing it. And anyway, watching someone else draw and pretending like it's you, you end up picking up these different skills that you otherwise wouldn't have done. I hope that makes sense. So, if you have any questions, or, you see me do something and I either go too fast, or you want me to clarify something more, leave me a comment down below. Ask your question. I'll be more than happy to answer it. I'll answer it in the comments, and I might even answer it on video like I'm doing here. I've mentioned it in some of my past videos, but one of the main things that makes my channel maybe a little bit different than other artists that you might watch is I am not a trained artist. I've never gone to school for art. I've never taken an art class. So I may not be able to give you the correct terminology, or the correct artist lingo that you might hear from trained artists. So what you're going to get from me is a sort of a non-trained perspective on it. You're going to get my tips and my tricks that I use for me that hopefully can help you out. So, that's kind of what I bring, and hopefully, like I said, this kind of thing will just help you out, even if you're just watching it. I honestly believe if you just watch these videos, follow along, asking yourself questions about what you're seeing, would you do it that way, or, why I'm doing what I'm doing. If you're answering these and following along, you're going to learn it yourself. So then when you're going to sit down and you're going to start drawing pictures, it's going to come to you almost like second nature. You're going to pick it up. So on the drawing here, you see I'm just kind of working on the hair. I'm just blending in sort of this dark value. I smeared it with my fingers, and now I'm using my pencil to just kind of really solidify the shape of the hair and the shape of the head here. You could see we're almost done. The face is, pretty smooth. It's pretty rendered. We just have the hair to do, and we're going to have the clothing to do. And you could see it is coming along pretty nicely. I do think we've captured his likeness pretty well. So, something I've mentioned before is that I used to think that if you can't draw from your imagination, or if you can't, if you don't know how to draw, if you don't know where to start drawing, you're not a real artist. I used to think all these crazy thoughts. Like, for the longest time, I didn't draw anything because I didn't think I was an artist. It wasn't until I started doing these videos and started drawing and watching other people on YouTube and trying it for myself, only then did I discover that anybody could be an artist. You just have to try, practice, and sort of work at it. It does take work. It doesn't come easy. But if you saw what some of my first drawings look like into what I'm doing now, you'd see why I get so excited, because I've seen how much I've grown and how much my art has improved just from watching other artists, just from filming these videos for my YouTube channel, just by answering your guys' questions. Those have all helped make me a better artist. And so that's why I encourage you to draw, to not be discouraged, to use my channel as a resource, to share with me your art, share with me your questions, and hopefully I can help you improve just like I feel like you're helping me improve by doing these. You could see here on this clothing that I'm working on, I want to make sort of the outside jacket a little darker, but I don't want this to be a white t-shirt, so that's why I'm slowly adding some charcoal to the undershirt, so it's not going to be just straight white, but I want this outside jacket to be a little darker. I'm not going to do the stripes that you see on the jacket. I'm just, I don't want to, I'm making a choice as an artist. I don't feel like it's that important to replicate everything he's wearing. I'm just, my main focus, I want you to be focused on his face, focused on his head, and I'm just doing this clothing just so it looks a little bit more complete. So here I am using my finger, and we're just kind of smear this in, make it a little bit more smooth. And you could see it really darkens up the charcoal just by running your finger over it. And see, all that's doing is it's taking that charcoal from the pencil, it's just smearing it into the paper. And then watch this, what I do with the background. It's going to make his head come forward. Putting this background back there, it's going to make the drawing look almost more 3D. Because look how the head's now going to stand out. Sort of the smoothness of the face kind of like now looks even more prominent. It's more forward. And it looks like the background's really behind him. And I'm going to go lighter on this side. This is the shadow side, so I'm going to make this a lighter background so there's more of a contrast between the darkness of the shadow of his face. But then back on the left-hand side, I'm going to make it a little bit darker. So see, this is going to be a little darker because it's the lighter side. I'm just creating more of a contrast. So I'm just using the side of some soft charcoal, this vine charcoal. And this charcoal is really, really soft. You'll see how it smooths out coming up here in a minute. In fact, even using my finger, you might be able to see how just it is so smooth, how it blends it together like this. And see how now we have sort of two backgrounds. We have the lighter background and the darker background. And I think that works nicely with this portrait. I think it makes him still stand out, keeps the attention on the face. And then if you want the face to stand out a little more, you just shade in around like this. So underneath the chin and on the neck, just shade it a little bit darker. As long as that's darker than the face will stand out even more. So this is the part 3 of this three-part portrait study of this particular guy. I'm assuming you've watched part 1 and part 2. If you have, thank you very much. And if you haven't, there are links to that in the description below. I encourage you to check it out. And if you like this kind of video, you can always share it or add it to a playlist. Put a playlist on your own channel of drawings that you like, add it to your playlist, and hopefully the more this video gets seen and the more you guys share my videos and the more you comment, this channel will grow even more and we will be able to really do a lot of fun things, reach a wider audience, I'm really pleased with how fast this channel's growing. And I can't wait to start doing some other cool things like live video streams and more interactive things with you guys. So we're working on the ear here and just bringing out some of the highlights. You can see if you look in the reference picture, the ear has some light points in there because the light seems to be coming more from this side of the face. And I really do like how his ear turned out here. I think we did a pretty good job at making it look like an ear. I'm not the best at drawing ears by any means. But all I try and do is just kind of look at the shapes and draw the shapes as best as I can. You know, that's pretty much my current way of drawing. Look for shapes, draw the shapes. And that's it. Oh, and by the way, if you guys have any requests or anything for me to draw, let me know. One of the things I'm thinking about doing is maybe trying to draw animals. That's something I do want to try and draw. I've never tried to draw an animal before, so I think that might be kind of fun. And of course, I will still continue to feature portrait drawing on this channel. Males and females of all ages, sizes, ethnicities. I think it's very important to try and be as diverse as possible and challenge myself with different poses and different things, see how well we can capture what the picture looks like. And you could see from my drawing here that, you know, it does look like, I mean, it looks realistic, but it still looks like a drawing. So we're not trying to make a photocopy. We're just trying to see how well can we freehand this picture. How well can we look at something and translate it onto a piece of paper? And I really do like the way this turned out. I really do think we did a good job here, and hopefully you guys have found a lot of value in this particular study. In part 1, we talked about how to start the portrait, how to lay it out, how to get the composition down on the paper, how to figure out where the proportions go for the eyes and the nose. That was all part 1. Part 2, we worked on taking it to the next level, blending it, starting to make it look a little more realistic, correcting some of the adjustments that we needed to do. And then of course in this video, part 3, is where we've really talked a lot about the shading, how to compare values, what to look for, always comparing one thing to another. And that's really the mechanics that I'm using in most of my portraits these days. They're all done in about 3 stages: the lay-in stage, the blending stage, and then sort of this stage, the final touches stage, smoothing things out, adjusting values, working on the things like clothing, or the things that are secondary to the picture. See, here I am just kind of adding some shadows to the collar here, make the collar kind of stand out a little bit from the background, make it look like it's kind of above the shoulder, and just using my finger. So I'm just laying down charcoal, using my finger to blend it in. Nothing fancy. And at this stage too, I'm also, not only am I looking for, darks and stuff, but you can see I'm using my eraser to kind of bring out certain light points. Like right here, it's light on this part of the shirt. This is all light in here. And so I'm just kind of, this is the final stages part of the drawing. And see, we're just about done here. You can see I did minimal amount of work on the clothing. Kind of how I wanted this picture to be here. I wanted it to be mostly realistic on the face. Try to smooth out the lines as best as possible. Remember, if you leave a lot of lines in your drawing, it's going to look a little more cartoonish. So that's kind of not what we want. We don't want to look like a cartoon. But there is more lines down here on the clothing, as you can see. So that I don't mind. I don't mind it kind of looking a little cartoony down below. If anything, that might make the face look a little more realistic. So a little more last touches here to his goatee. Just adding little tiny lines to kind of give you the illusion of individual hairs coming from his chin. And that's it. You can see we're signing our name here. And let me cut away and go to my real-time thoughts. Alright everybody, well, I think that concludes this portrait. I think it turned out pretty good. I think we captured his likeness. I think that, you know, for all intents and purposes, this is a pretty good drawing. Overall, this took probably a little less than 3 hours of total drawing time. And I really appreciate you watching and listening to me talk over all this stuff, for watching Part 1, Part 2, and this video, Part 3. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, leave me a comment below. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up button for me. And check out these other videos you see on the screen, some of my other work. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, because I do have new videos come out all the time. And that way you can check out more, we can learn together. And with that being said, I will see you very soon with the next video.